Hi, welcome back to the Launch Point Leader Podcast. My name's Lori.
I'm Beau.
And this is another episode this week where we have had a listener write in and tell us about just a problem they're dealing with in their professional life. If you or someone you know has a similar issue or something else you want to write in, you can always send us a letter right on our website at launchpointleader.com/podcast. So our letter today says, Dear Launchpoint, I'm in a tough spot with a coworker and I'm not sure how to handle it. We both do work directly with clients outside of our organization, but this coworker has a habit of taking over projects and overstepping boundaries. The problem is when they rush ahead without communicating, things often get messy, and I'm the one left cleaning it up. I feel myself constantly apologizing on their behalf, smoothing things over, and making sure things are actually done right. I don't want to be the person always fixing their mistakes, but I also don't want to create unnecessary conflict. How do I set boundaries without damaging our working relationship? And how do I stop feeling responsible for their missteps? Looking forward to your advice. Sincerely, tired of tidying.
You know me, Lori, and some of our listeners have kind of gotten this drift for me by now. I'm a pretty simple fella.
Yeah.
I think as tired of tidying as asking this question, and how do I stop feeling responsible? You know, how do I set boundaries without damaging the relationship? Well, here's my initial hot take. And I don't know if this will be helpful or not. So you'll have to patch it up if it's not helpful, right? The initial hot take here is it sounds like it won't matter what you do. This person is a bit delusional. And they are flying by the seat of their pants. And they think that they are the ones that know better, know best. And while there might be some go-get-it kind of attitude and momentum there, that's always a good thing. If unchecked, it becomes something like this. So I don't know that you're going to be able to necessarily fix it. But to give you hope, I do think there are ways that you can go about mitigating the outcomes here. And the first thing I think you should do is tell this person, stop it. I mean, that's the simple part. Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. Like, if we have boundaries, boundaries are there not to restrain you from what you are capable of doing. Yeah. Boundaries are there, think of them as guardrails. They are there to keep you from hurting yourself and others. That's it. Not because we don't think you're capable of all the things that we have asked you to do or all the things you want to do, but they're there to help everybody.
Yeah.
So respect the boundaries. And if you want to change the boundaries, then whatever dynamic this group is or this team is, then bring that up and say, I think these things should change. Let the group decide, whatever the group decides, that's how we go forward. Yeah. But until that happens, respect the boundaries that have been put in place, because your go-get-it kind of attitude is either, I don't know if it's a go-get-it attitude or if it's a look at me kind of thing.
Sure.
And some ego issues involved there. So I know that's not a fantastic like step-by-step process for you to go through, but I do think the reality in some situations is it's just not right. And it's just not healthy. Yeah. And if you want it to be better, you got to step up.
Right.
And you've got to be able to risk the relational damage that might come as a result of it, as long as you're presenting it through facts and data and presenting it professionally, helping this person understand how their actions are putting unneeded stress on other people and how their actions are actually hurting the project overall and the outcomes that you want to see than it is helping. So stop it.
Stop it. That's it. Just walk in
That's
tomorrow.
We're finished with this podcast episode. Yeah.
Stop it.
Stop
Thanks so much. No.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
No, I think it's a tough spot, like you said, and that is essentially what needs to happen. Something needs to stop. I think the last question they said is, how do I stop feeling responsible for their missteps? Yeah. And unfortunately, the fix here isn't letting that go, right? Because at the end of the day, it sounds like you guys work together on this team for probably the same clients, if not very similar. And so I think exactly what you said. As you were talking, I was thinking like tangibly, what would this look like if I was in this situation? And my thought is, do you guys have written out guardrails in place?
Yeah.
Maybe this is somebody that's worked with somebody else in the past and they were someone that was fine with them in the way that they worked. Maybe they'd worked together for a long time. I'm painting a lot of scenarios on this, right? But
well, you could be,
whether
exactly
you've been
right.
with this person and it's been driving you nuts for years, or you guys have a newer relationship of 6 months, I think the first question is, do you have guardrails in place? Are these just verbal things that you think you understand and it's clear this person doesn't?
Great point.
Or are there company guardrails? And so maybe sitting down and saying, hey, when we are assigned a client together, this is our steps that we're going to take. This is what we agree. Because until you do that, when this person in your mind steps out of line, it sounds like, you mentioned in their head, they probably don't feel that way at all. I will tell you the truth. I don't think this person's going home and feeling guilty about what they're doing. They probably don't see what you say. Like you say, you're like cleaning up the mess. Sometimes I don't think they see a mess.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I go back to like in college when you're in a group project with people or just different scenarios. We've all worked with a variety of different people in life. I just don't think they're seeing it that way. So I think the guardrails is really your first step. If you want something tangible you can set up within the next week, that's a great conversation that has to happen.
What are our agreements?
Yes.
Right. And how are we going to go about serving this client together? What's acceptable, what's not? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say we've had that conversation. All right, it's the next month. We have a brand new client together. The company's never worked with them before. We go in together and I start seeing some of these same tendencies.
Yeah.
Then what do I do?
Yeah, you have to call it out. But you call it out back to the agreement.
Yes.
Right. So the agreement has to be written. It's got to be agreed upon. Thus the word agreement. Right. And then you start out every new relationship reviewing, in my opinion, reviewing what you all have decided of how you're going to work together and how you're going to work with this new client. And if any boundary is violated or crossed, I think you have to point it's not Lori doing it.
Right.
It's, hey, remember, this is
what we decided.
This is what we decided. And listen, after this client, or if we have to be dynamic and change some things with this client, like I think we need to be open to talking about it, but we've got to go back to the agreement that we said is going to guide our work together and make those adjustments on that.
So then, worst case scenario, right? They say, yep, they'll leave a meeting like, yep, this is our agreement, whatever. Yeah. You still are having clients that are ending up upset. You have a relationship. You feel like you're still having to step in and fix things for them, quote unquote, right? What do you do then?
That's when you grab them in the hall and say, stop it, right? So you go back to that.
That's always in your back pocket, ready at any moment.
Just pull it out, yeah. I think some will disagree with me on this. I think you have to handle this as much as you can internally between the two of you or whatever the group might be. But at some point, if there's an unwillingness to listen to logic and data and to abide by the agreement that everyone said they were going to abide by, someone has to come into that relationship then and be an outside ear and kind of help sort things out. So your supervisor, the next person up on that ladder, to just hear what's going on, to understand what the agreement is, to understand what's happening with the client. Because at the end of the day, if I am that person that has to step in, my goal is that client is served with excellence. Yeah. All the time, every time, because that is the lifeblood of the company, right? And so that means if they're served with excellence, you and this other person are doing their job with excellence. So that's going to continue to give you the income and what you need from that job as well, the purpose, the fulfillment. So I think it's just this shift of realizing you might have to get somebody else involved once all this framework is set in place, unfortunately. Right, absolutely. If they're unwilling. Or you are just going to have to figure out how to get over it and not care as much and just say, this is what it is, and I'm just going to continue to do my work. And I can tell you from experience that's really not healthy at all. Not long term. Not long term. In the moment it's not as painful as confrontation or getting somebody else, a third party, involved. But I think for me, it's it's this biblical model of going to your brother or your sister if there's an issue, try to work it out amongst yourselves. If you can't, and the issue continues to happen, you got to bring somebody else in as a trusted, not that's on your side or theirs, but a neutral party who wants what's best for everybody to try to work it out. And if that doesn't work, then it kind of goes before a group, a governing body, if you will, to make a final decision. And you never want to get to that point. But I think it's there as an example of how we should handle this kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that nails it because... stop it. Right. At the end of the day, everything's going to come back to...
That's it.
Stop it.
Stop it. That's right.
Which is what you'll say in your head, maybe scream in your car at the end of the day, but won't get you far. Yeah. Because I think I keep going back to that question, how do I stop feeling responsible? It's easy to push aside those feelings and say you don't care or feel responsible, but it sounds like you care deeply about the success of what you do in your work, and doing these steps is the only way you're going to let go of that feeling and take that responsibility back into something you feel like you have control over, because it sounds like you feel a little bit out of control in that scenario. And go ahead.
And just realizing you're doing them a disservice if you don't call this out.
Absolutely.
You really are. You're letting them go down a path that ultimately for them won't be productive for their future as well. So
yeah. And so, I mean, it's exactly those steps. I think it's either revisit the boundaries and guardrails you already have set your agreement. If you don't have something like that tangible, create it, follow through with it, call it out when you see areas going through that, try to work it out. And then it's when you start to bring other people in that can help you with that and hold both of yourselves accountable for that. Yeah. Is truly the best thing you can do in this scenario.
Agreed. Good synopsis right there.
I think it's good.
For whoever this person is, tired of tidying.
Yes.
You're welcome to give me a call personally. We can connect later. And if you need somebody to give a firm stop it, I got you.
It's a cameo, right? You should just...
We'll there'll be a fee.
Yeah.
Clearly there will be a fee.
You can come in person like a...
I will come in person. Yeah. I mean, I'll be happy to do that. The fee is higher then, obviously, but the impact is greater.
We'll work it out.
Yes. Whatever you want. We're here to serve. Yeah.
Well, tired of tidying. Thank you for writing in. I really appreciate you sharing this definitely interesting situation. I think it'll help a lot of people out there that go through similar situations. If you or someone else out there has something you're going through and you want to write us in, you can always visit our website, launchpointleader.com/podcast, and write us in from there. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
See you next time.